Okay, great. And we're going to share screen. Great. All right, everyone. Thanks so much for joining for the November call. Super exciting because this call is all going to be about lessons that we can learn from elite runners. And I also think it's one of these discussions that we can also learn like little nuggets. They don't have to be this big, grand lesson, but they can be little nuggets that maybe we tuck away in the back of our mind, and then we pull them out when we're on a long run, when we're working through a hard workout effort. Maybe it's when we're journaling at the end of the week and kind of evaluating our elevated moments, our wins, things that maybe didn't work as well in training. But I'm super excited about this. This concept came to be because a lot of you were asking about our fantastic night with Grant Fisher in Denver and, everything that he had to share with the group. So I think many of you know that his sister Haley is an Elevate Your Running coach on the team. Haley is fantastic. I love her so much. And I didn't even know that Grant was her brother until like last year when he went to the Paris Olympics, and he won the bronze medal in the 5,000 and 10,000 meters. And it was the first time I think a U.S. Middle distance runner was able to go back to back in both distances. Think about that. Like when you're like, let's say you're racing a 10K, which I can't remember actually the order. I think it is 10K, 5K. Like you race a 10K, you get a few days rest, and then you go in and race a 5K just a few days later, maybe a week later. It's pretty phenomenal what he did. And so a few weeks before this event happened, Haley texted and asked, hey, if I could get my brother to come to the last night of the summer training team practice, would you be okay with that? And I'm like, I would be more than okay with that. Like, that is amazing. And then it just ended up landing on the same week as the Chicago Marathon. And so it was so great. I mean, she literally texted me back very, very quickly. I don't even think it was an hour. And she's like, he's in, he's so excited. And then we were kind of talking about how we wanted to structure the night. So I'll get into that maybe a little bit more because he's going to be at the end of our presentation, but it was phenomenal. It was fantastic. This is a picture of me with Grant, and just, it was so great. Okay, so consistent competence leads to eventual excellence. This is a quote from Coach Ed Eyestone, who coaches all of what seems to be the thriving athletes coming out of Utah. And he is the coach for Connor Mance, who has the American marathon and half marathon record right now, as well as my favorite, Clayton Young. And this was a quote that actually Clayton Young used after the World's Championship, where he was looking to podium. He ended up placing 8th in the marathon, running a very disappointing time. And he used this quote to kind of, I think, fuel him, to get him excited, because he had so much more to give in the sport. He knows that. And to kind of say like, hey, okay, I am showing up. I am being consistent. It's going to lead to eventual excellence, or what I consider to be excellent, because I have places I want to go. There are things I want to do in this sport while I still can. And if I can stay consistent as well as healthy in that process, then I'm going to be able to get it done. So I love this quote. I think it's just a great foundational quote that we can always all go back to. And I hope too that even in over the last few months with my very short build into Chicago, I was pretty adamant about saying how, although I got fit very fast for Chicago, a lot of that, most of it was based on the last 6 years of running. And if I wouldn't have had the last 6 years of running with working with a coach and being consistent, chances are the ability to get fit for a marathon in 9 weeks and the ability to race the marathon in 9 weeks wouldn't have happened. So I think everything that we're doing now is going to lead us to where we're eventually going. So I think anytime we have those harder days or those harder seasons, we can think back to what we're doing now is going to shape our future. Even right now, I'm kind of in this gray area of running and training. I'm still showing up, doing what I want to do every day. I can't get away from the workouts for some reason. So I'm still like running workouts and writing my own plan. And it's been a lot of fun. And I know that this season's going to help propel me to maybe some bigger things in 2026. So the first part of this conversation is going to be lessons learned from the 2025 New York City Marathon. Elite runners are just like us, and in so many ways they are not like us, because they treat this, most of them, this is their full-time job. They are sponsored. They are getting paid to be not only at these races, but they are also paid based on where they place. So there is a component of not only running their best race on race day, but there's also a component of where they are in the field and who they're competing against, and if they need to outkick someone, or a few people, or not getting outkicked. So there's a lot of different strategy that goes in for the elite races, but when it comes down to the fundamentals, they are just like us because they're human, just like us. So lesson number one, elite runners run easy. I was floored to see that Des Linden running the entire race, the New York City race, with her athlete Anthony Ramos, who is, I believe he was in a Broadway. Was he in Wicked? I don't actually remember. Hamilton. Thanks, Meg. Yeah, he was in Hamilton, and she ended up running the entire race with him, which I don't know if anyone on this call or anyone listening to the playback listened to the Des and Kara recap of New York City, but Des was talking about how she was like so overwhelmed with how runners, amateur runners, everyone on this call, myself included, anyone who's not pro, what we have to deal with when we run a marathon, because I think she realized just how good elites have it in a lot of ways. And she was talking about dropping out at mile 3 because people were like shoving each other. And she was just like, whoa, 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 like, let's chill out. Let's calm down. Like, we still have 23 miles to run. There doesn't need to be shoving. But then she talked about how hard it was. Like, you know, maybe should she drop out at 10? And then she's like 16. I can't really leave him hanging at 16. So she ended up running the entire marathon with her athlete, Anthony. And I wanted to kind of break down the minutes per mile for this. So for New York City, when she was running with Anthony, she was running a 10:51 mile average, which I think for many of us could be like, oh, okay, that's like something I could totally do. But let's break it down to like what her actual marathon pace is per mile. So Boston 2025, which was her last official like elite pro marathon, she ran a 2:26:19, 5:35 per mile. She was still very, very competitive, even in her very last marathon, which I think was so cool. Something she talked a lot about on her podcast, about how there has been so much good technology advancements with shoes and carbohydrates and training that she's been able to kind of just hang on, but she hasn't been able to advance down to maybe where some of those pro runners are now. Or, you know, she hasn't PR'd since 2011. Think about that. That is 14 years of not PRing the marathon, but still showing up. I think she's run Boston every single year, and then maybe a fall marathon, continuing to show up, see what she has, and kind of just land in a 5-minute kind of spectrum. Or her PR marathon time is 5:27 per mile. That's not a lot of time per mile between 2011 and 2025. But what I know to be true is when you get faster, and this is something I've heard from other elite runners, and I've experienced this a little bit, specifically in my last marathon, 5 seconds per mile can feel totally different. And it feels so weird that 5 seconds per mile, whether it's 5:27 to 5:35, so that's 7 seconds per mile, I bet feels vastly different for her. Or for me, 6:45 to 6:50 feels very different when I'm running the marathon. It's not even like, oh, it's a little bit faster. It just feels like a whole other gear. It's wild. So a few seconds per mile can make all the difference when we're going out for our races. But I also really, really want to drive home the fact that, oh yeah, Brian says her most special Boston in 2018. Well, that's the one that she won, of course. But that's not what I'm talking about on this slide. But yes, she did one in 2018, which was a huge accomplishment, even though I don't think it was a PR, but it was obviously like a huge, huge accomplishment. Um, So when we run easy, and some people on this call have done some really amazing things with slowing down on their easy runs, they've been getting a lot faster and they have been also racing a lot faster. You can do a lot more in training. So I think anytime that you're running with other people, you're running with a group, you're running alone on your easy days, slow down. Slow down. We really want to have the 3 C's when it comes to our easy running: conversational, controlled, and comfortable. And at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter what you're doing in training. I don't care if you're posting PRs every day in your workouts and your long runs. On your easy days, they're the fastest they've ever been. It all comes down to, can you stay healthy and can you PR on race day? That's not what it all comes down to. But if that's how you're showing up in training, it gets to apply also on race day. So super, super incredible to see her run the New York City Marathon. She also showed on social that she got like a plaque from like the hotel that she was staying at saying like, congratulations on your 4:44. And she was like, this is so amazing for so many different reasons. So super, super fun to see that. And we'll see what's next for her. I think she'll be getting into the ultra space, and it'll be just super cool to see what she has coming up next. But she's not done yet. She has a fantastic YouTube video out now about her last Boston and everything that she's done kind of leading into that last race and all the feelings that were around saying goodbye to the marathon distance. Lesson 2, elite runners need to recover. So I thought this was really interesting. Susanna Sullivan ran at Worlds, which was about 7 weeks before New York, and she ran a 2:28:17 at Worlds. Think about racing a marathon and taking 7 weeks off and going in and running another marathon. Basically, she ran the exact same pace, which was incredible. Worlds was quite a bit faster, but it was also a lot warmer that day. She placed 4th overall. And then at New York, much hillier, cooler conditions, and she placed 11th overall. So obviously the heat played a huge impact at Worlds for slower times, but at New York, just 7 weeks of recovery and probably some sharpening workouts, she ran a very, very similar time, but placed quite a bit different, which means her payout looked a lot different than probably what she was anticipating to run. And then we have Stefan Hassan, which I think I said that wrong because I've been listening to Tara Goucher say it wrong for the last few years on her podcast, which is also really funny that she's been talking about that. She ran a 2:18:22 at Sydney, which was 9 weeks ago. Incredible. Sydney is super hilly. She put it all out there, an incredible performance. She tried to turn around a marathon 9 weeks later. She ran 2:24, so quite a bit slower, but she still placed 6th overall. I know for New York, it was pretty disappointing because she was looking to podium, if not win the race, but she just didn't have the gears. As we know, the course record was set in New York from Helen, and it was under 2:20, so an incredible performance on that day in New York. 9 weeks, and she ran quite a bit slower. So they ran well, all things considered, right? Because I think we'd look at these times and be like, oh, it's not it's either that not that much far off, or it's still really fast. But you got to put this in their perspective of they didn't run their potential and they didn't get what they maybe wanted to do as pro athletes. So recovery is a huge aspect to training. And it's something that Grant talked quite a bit about with us on the Elevate team. And I'll talk about that later. But pro runners, just like us, we need to recover after the marathon. I know everyone gets a little antsy when they have rest the week after the marathon, but it's also a really great time to lean into other hobbies, to lean into other recovery practices, recovery tools, and be able to show up when it is time to run again in a way that supports you. Your body feels good, it continues to stay healthy, and also your mind is ready to go. Because I think that's also kind of a big needle mover with all of that. I do want to piggyback actually on what Brian had mentioned in lesson number 1 about Des winning the 2018 Boston. That was the year that it was like the weather was incredibly windy, cold, rainy, and what a great lesson that she demonstrated, because she hung on. She didn't run anyone else's race but her own race. And she was able to place first and win the race because she did what she needed to do in the moment throughout that entire race. She even stopped, I believe, and supported a teammate who, I think it was Shalane Flanagan, that needed to like use the bathroom, or there was like something going on. And she, I think, stopped with her and then continued to go. And she ended up winning the race and having, you know, a moment in her running career that she wouldn't have probably necessarily had if she had gone out with all the other women and maybe gone out at a slightly hotter pace and not able to like make it happen at the end of the day, because I think it was headwinds, temperature, rain. It was a cold day.
It was pretty miserable that day. But
were you there, Brian?
Yep, that was my first Boston.
Oh,
Yeah.
So
I claim to fame for that day as I beat Galen Rupp.
Oh, you did? Oh my God.
He dropped out. So
Oh. That's kind of fun when you think about it that way. Like, oh yeah, like you were able to finish. So Brian and I participated in the 2023 Boston weekend. And Brian was there that weekend, and that was a week, or that was a race day where it was a little bit cooler. It was rainy, it was windy. And I did so much research about the weather that day that I got so in my head that it was going to be like the same, like super cold, hypothermic day that they had in 2018. It ended up not being that way, but that was a really cold day too. So much fun. You never know what you're going to get at Boston.
Nope.
Lesson number 3, elite runners have off days too. So speaking of dropping out, Sarah Hall dropped out at around mile 17. Sarah Vaughn dropped out at around mile 20. Now, these are pro runners who were going into New York without, you know, other big races, I think, on the calendar leading into New York. Maybe they had a tune-up, but they were full steam ahead, and they just ended up not having the day that they wanted and DNFing. And I think that it's so true that we can all have those off race days. When I only got to see a very small part of the New York City Marathon this year. It was like literally the women's start for like maybe the first mile. And then I ended up running with my friend Mary Lee, who Brian knows, and many of you probably also just know her by association. I think Jesse has met her too. But I was meeting her in Denver, so I wasn't able to watch the New York City Marathon, but I remember watching the women start out, and I was looking at Sarah Hall, and I was like, ooh, she does not look like herself. She doesn't look smooth. She looks like the pace looks hard for her. And, you know, obviously it's a start of the marathon, so you never really know what's going to happen. They might warm up a little bit more. Elites always get the opportunity to warm up before the race, and they always warm up before the race, and they have a pretty cool area to do that right next to the start line. So I wasn't totally surprised to see that she dropped out at 17, and then Sarah Vaughn ended up dropping out at mile 20. And you know, I think it's, a great reminder that they, just like us, have off race days or off days in training. They have off seasons. And so it's okay. It's part of being a human. And I think it's how we kind of flow through it when it happens, whether we drop out or we push through and maybe we jog all the way through the end. I think it's important that, we learn from it and we don't let it get ourselves down. Sarah Hall has a great post on this about how she reflected on her DNF, how she kind of managed it, and how she's moving on. And I think that's a really great place to be, not just in running, but in life. Anytime we have something that maybe doesn't go our way or something that's really disappointing. And I'd have to say, for these two women, and maybe any of us running a marathon, if we're DNFing, that is a disappointing day. To sit in the feelings, I think it's really important to acknowledge it, to flow through it, give yourself time to process, and then move on. One of the things that I think Clayton has talked about has been that the 24-hour rule of give yourself 24 hours to be really excited about the race or disappointed about the race or just meh about the race, however you're feeling about the race, and then move on. And maybe you need more than 24 hours. Like, I definitely sat in the joy of Chicago for way more than 24 hours, but I also don't have really anything else lined up right now. So it was fun to kind of celebrate and be in it and not move forward in that space. But I think anytime you have maybe a tune-up race that doesn't go well, you still have your A goal race on the calendar in 6 to 8 weeks. So it's time to, flow through the emotions. No, it's just one day, and show up to training and see what you got for your A goal race coming up. All right, lessons learned from Grant Fisher, Olympian. This was us when he was there with the team. So much fun. I joked with them. I don't think anyone. Oh, Will's on the call. Will was there. I joked with the team offline, I think later. I was like, that was like the most focused I've seen you all ever. It was incredible. So we got a 30-minute Q&A with Grant before we started our last workout of the summer season. So he joined us in the warm-up, which was a lot of fun. So again, going back to lesson number 1, elite runners can run easy. They run easy on their easy days. He jogged a 9:20 pace with us, and that was a lot of fun to see. And then he stayed basically next to me while the team was like running their workout in the park, and people were, kind of going in and out of their workout and talking to him, taking selfies. And he was with us for about 90 minutes, and it was so much fun. It was also so fun. We were in a very public, runner heavy area, and I had asked Haley, like, do we need to go somewhere more discreet? Can we do this at Wash Park, which is a pretty popular running park in Denver? And she's like, no, I mean, he's used to it. It's fine. And we definitely had some people who either noticed him right away or noticed him kind of after the fact and was like yelling things, and it was just a lot of fun. And I asked him, I was like, oh, do you get this a lot when you go out? And he's like, well, no. He's like, it kind of depends on where I am. If I'm in like a runner heavy area, like a park like this where people are here to work out, it's Wednesday night, it's the week of the Chicago Marathon. Like, yes, I'm definitely going to have people who recognize me, know who I am, and will either, come up for pictures or just shout something across the park. He's like, but I was in Michigan last weekend for a wedding, and he's like, no one knew who I was. So it's like, it's like probably kind of cool for him to have that privacy, and also knowing that sometimes he's just not going to get that. So super, super, super fun. So one of the lessons, or one of the things that he talked about, was the setbacks and comebacks and the mindset shift. So someone had asked him, I think, about during the Grand Slam events, there were supposed to be 4 of them. They ended up canceling the 4th one. So they only ended up having 3 of them. And he participated, or he was supposed to participate in all 4. The 3rd one was in Philadelphia, and he ended up pulling out right before the start of the competition because he had like a little hamstring niggle, and he ended up taking some time off from that because I can't even imagine running 5K effort when your hamstring isn't what it should be. So also knowing that he had Worlds coming up in, I think that was in August, so didn't want to like push anything. He was asked about injury. So he said anytime he's coming back from injury or maybe a setback, it's all about the mind. And that was something he talked a lot about, was the mind over really anything else. So he said to focus on the right things, not the wrong things. And what he meant by this is focus on the things that you can do, the things that are going to help you get healthy versus things that you can't do. And I think this is so powerful and so strong. I had mentioned before we started this recording today that when I was hurt over the summer, you know, I had a lot of people reach out, and some people were like, you could cross train, you could jump on the treadmill and run with the lever. I had a friend that offered to like give that to me and let me borrow it so I could continue running. And I was like, no, 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 no. I don't want to do either one of those things. If I can't run outside and be healthy, and you know, that brings me joy, I really don't want to do it, but I'm going to focus on all the things that I can do, which is going to be my weekly PT, my weekly massage appointments, my daily pre-run stretching, which was longer than most of my runs for a few weeks, post-run stretching, and continuing to foam roll and use my massage gun and different things to really help alleviate what was kind of causing the discomfort in my foot. So focusing on all the things that you can do is going to be a really great way to not only flow through the challenging time that you have, but I think it also gives back a sense of purpose. And fortunately, unfortunately, most of us like a little bit of control in our training, and it gives you back some control of what you can do. And that does feel like you're doing something rather than nothing, or maybe taking some steps back. So he's still motivated when he's injured. He still stays focused, and he just does the things that he can do. So he asks himself, what can I do today to make my body feel better tomorrow? I love that so much. And I think that that's actually a phrase that can be used after we run a workout, after we run a long run, after we finish up an easy day and we have a workout the next day. What can I do today to make my body feel better tomorrow? Especially as we get older, the recovery process does take a little bit longer. So I think it's really important to recover it hard, recover as much as you can. Obviously, it's not going to be linear, and there's going to be days where things just don't happen, and that's okay. But I think it's important to just have that intentionality around it and see what you can do today to make your body feel better tomorrow. A lot of the things that I was doing in my training too over the summer was refueling quickly after workouts, long runs. I was taking ketones, and that was the first time I was consistently taking ketones after a workout and long run. And that seemed, I don't know, I had a great 9 weeks, all things considered. So I don't know what it was. It could have been a lot of things, but I was taking ketones, and they are kind of known to help in the recovery process. I've heard a lot of athletes talk about how well they recover after taking ketones immediately after a hard effort. And lastly, he said, I'm not afraid to try. I'm excited to feel better tomorrow. And I think this is huge, because how many of us, when we are injured or we're in a setback, we're afraid to get back out there. We're afraid of if our body's going to feel bad, if our injury is going to pop up again, if maybe something else pops up again. But it's really important to just try to shift the mindset into, it's okay to be like this, but I also want to feel excited about feeling better tomorrow and trying tomorrow. I think it's really, really important to have that excitement that goes with it versus the scarcity or the fear-based mindset of going out and running and seeing what happens. I know, like, when I first started getting back into running, it was like really immediate for me whether the run was going to go either okay or bad. There wasn't a good run for a few months, and it was all based on how high my pain level was in my foot. And I'd always give myself like 90 seconds. Like, if I can get through the first 90 seconds of this run without the pain going above 3 out of 10, it's probably going to be an okay run. Or if I started and it was like incredibly high, I usually just shut it down and didn't run and just went home. But that was kind of my fear-based segment for 90 seconds before going into the excited, because I kind of knew how my body was going to feel or could feel in the rest of that run, even if it was for only 30 minutes or whatever. So I think it's really important to have that mindset shift. Maybe you have that little thing at the very beginning of your run to be like, okay, I made it through this, so now I can be excited. Or get excited about going out and seeing how that shifts the body. Oftentimes when we're injured or we're in a setback, it's the body speaking to stress that's going on outside of training. Very rarely is it, oh my God, this runner's been doing so much running and overtraining and overrunning paces that they got injured. It's typically that the stress within training is too high with the stress that's going on in life. And so the stress that's coming from life is dipping into training. And that's how we feel sluggish. That's how we get niggles. That's how we get full-blown injuries. And what I know to be true is that anytime that I've alleviated stress over the last like 4 months, whether that's been like going home for a week or being with my family in other locations or running the Chicago Marathon, my foot has felt 100%. It was fine. And that's not to discount or discredit that the injury wasn't real, but I think it's important to know how much stress can play an impact on your body. So the more that we can feel excited about running or excited to feel better, so maybe that's feel better in cross training or something else, I think the better off we are going to be. Maybe excited for that rest day, that like active rest day of like, I get to do mobility and then sit my butt down for the rest of the day. That is how I'm going to feel better the next day. Lesson 2 is seizing momentum. Oh my gosh. Okay. So this was a really fun aspect to what Grant talked about. So a question came up about if he like finds flow state in racing and if he, kind of has that like that PR kind of day in racing. And he kind of made a joke about how he doesn't really, his margins are so small with like PRing that he doesn't really get that anymore. But he understands like, you can kind of like seize on the momentum, which could be in a race and it could be in training. And I was thinking about that this morning, actually, when I was running a workout and how you can seize momentum in training without overdoing it. And you can seize the momentum in your race and giving it your all. And creating some really fun and really strong magic in that. So when you have an A+ day, you have to take advantage of that and you have to harness it and go for it. So if that means in your workout, you're feeling amazing and maybe it lands on one day, maybe it lands on a full week, maybe you have an entire month of feeling good. Grant says to take advantage of it. So we get to take advantage of it. But I think there is this balancing act of you can also kind of lean into the effort of it and knowing like, I am still running on effort. I'm feeling really strong. So the paces came in a little bit faster. I think it's a little bit different if you're running, let's say Ks, you're running a K workout, 1K kilometer repeats at 5K effort, and you're running them at mile pace. And then your hands on the knees in between recovery. You need more recovery. You're just like totally out of it at the end of the workout. That's not seizing momentum. Seizing momentum is running a K workout at 5K effort, 5K. Maybe your paces are there, but let's say they're 10 seconds faster per K. You're recovering faster. You're recovering through the short interval that you have. You're getting back into it. You're feeling strong. You're feeling confident. Lean into it. That is a really, really, really fun place to be, because you're creating not just joy, because it feels fun to be able to run like that, but you are creating some fitness. I think you're creating a lot of confidence. One of the things that I say to athletes anytime that they're working with me in person on Wednesday nights, if they overrun their first interval, I'm like, congratulations, you've now set the bar for where the rest of this workout's going. Like, so we get to be, one, intentional about that first rep, but two, like, let's just see where we go with this, because if you're feeling good today, let's take advantage of it, but in a very structured way. So the balancing act of what Grant was talking about was to not overrun your paces so much that you race your day in training, which I think we see that a lot of times on Strava. And we probably see that a lot of times with maybe people that we know, where like their training goes amazing and then they can't pull things together on race day. So the race is ultimately what you're training for. So it's totally okay to seize the momentum, run a little bit faster in training if you're feeling it, but knowing your North Star for the season, your A goal race, is ultimately what you're training for. So you don't want to run your race in training, and you don't want to dig yourself into a hole of overtraining because you ran a workout too fast. I ran a 3x2 mile workout at 10-mile race pace at altitude. This was a year and a half ago, and I 1,000% would not back off of the paces that my coach gave me, which were right around 6:25 to 6:30, 6 miles, kind of in that space. And I remember the last mile I hit, but I felt so bad. And I remember finishing the workout and I was like, this is a feeling I've never felt before. I think I just put myself into a really, really big hole. And I did, because I pushed way too hard. So that's an example of not really seizing momentum, but sticking to a plan that should be written in pencil and being able to shift, pivot, and get through the workout in a much healthier way than overrunning, digging yourself into a hole. And then ultimately, I didn't have a good race either, because I wasn't able to get out of that hole. I think there was like a 2-week span between the both of them. He also mentioned that even elites have unmotivated days and training runs. So he said there are times where he doesn't want to go out and run. And I think that was really important to hear, because I think we think that elites love running, and they do love running, but it is also their job, and they're going to have unmotivated days just like us. This is very, very normal. He is right now in a season of in between seasons. So he's running quite a bit less, but he's doing more cross training. He's saying yes to everything that he can say yes to outside of running. He said when he's training, he has to say no to basically everything that doesn't involve his training. So if there's weddings, if there's family gatherings, I know his family does FaceTime stuff together, but like in-person family gatherings, he can't do it. He's so focused on his training that's where he's at. And then right now in his off season, before he kind of picks up training, I think in February, he said, he'll do a little bit of cross training. He'll do some running, but it's not structured. He's not running like big workouts, and it's his time to kind of like mentally and physically relax, which is a really cool place to be. Okay, lesson 3. Running is a life blueprint. So the mindset that you've built and the lessons that you've learned in your running journey are applicable to life and vice versa. I think it's really, really cool to hear an elite runner say that like all the lessons that we learn in our training, in our racing, and how we show up when things get hard, how we show up when we have to shift and pivot on the trail or on the road, how we have to shift and pivot in a race plan is very, very similar to how we show up in life when things don't go the way that we want them to, or life throws us a curveball, or or we have a really great day and we're just riding on that momentum. How many of us have had that in running and in life? It can go both ways. So what you've learned is so important in both scopes of both running and in life. So I'd love to hear from everyone. We're going to keep this interactive right now. What have you learned in maybe in life or in running that has kind of like blended itself onto the other side? So take yourself off mute, feel free to jump in, or add your stuff in the comments, and I'll share them with the team. There's so many lessons that we learn in running. I would say I think I've learned more lessons in running than I have in life that I can apply to life when things happen in life.
I think mine is that it won't always be like this forever.
Yeah.
And how to
Either
flow
way.
through either way, right? But I think back to a really tough and challenging summer, both in life and running, and how it felt in that moment. It was going to be like this forever, but just flowing through that. And now it's like I'm on the other side and it feels good again. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you've had a lot of, like highs and lows in both areas, and you always come through so much stronger too, Meg, which is really inspiring to see.
I'd say, however, my professional career has been bumpy this year, to say the least.
Yeah.
What I will take from it is from my before my running career, since I was a late start to running, I'm a much more confident person because of my running experience in my professional life.
Yeah.
Because of that. So I am unafraid to try new things, have difficult conversations, put myself out there, because I've already been through those challenging things through running itself.
Oh, yeah. I love that. Like the confidence that running has given you and all the lessons you can apply in life. I love that. Awesome, Brian. Will commented, it took me 15 plus years of running to learn easy runs should be easy. Welcome to Team Elevate, Will. You're crushing. Will's crushing the game right now. Will is running very, very well, and he's running CIM next month. So, and he's healthy, which I think is also a really important aspect to all of it. So, anyone else? Anyone else want to share? Judy, go for it, Judy. Oh, you're on mute, Judy.
Okay. So for me, I just had learned that, I've had so many setbacks, like 2 years in a row.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the biggest thing that I've learned that, setbacks isn't a failure. It's part of our story. And I think initially you're mad and angry, you blame everyone, it's the blame game. And then you have to realize, I realized it was like a sign from the universe telling me I had to slow down, not just about running, but I think my life in general. I had to reevaluate what are the stressors in my life. That's including people and my relationship with people. And I had to remove the toxic relationships or anything that didn't serve me. So it kind of helped me rebuild from scratch. And that just took a lot of patience and grace. And that I found strength in starting over again. And so it has shaped how I approach any challenges that I have now. It's nothing compared to what I had endured before. I think it was just, and that progress is rarely loud or immediate. It's just most of our growth happens during those quiet miles. And that it's the miles that no one sees that you put the work in.
Yes.
And it's just, it taught me to trust the process, trust the long game, to stay consistent. Even when the days that, the motivation is low and you just don't feel like it, once you just start and just like the first few steps or like a half a mile into it, it's just, you just feel kind of rejuvenated, and then you just go and you just crush a really tough workout. But just keep showing up. So that's just my thing. On my take of, with my injuries in the past. So
Yeah, that's beautiful, Judy. It really resonates with me. And going through an injury myself, this summer, and I kind of had 3 big hits right in a row, the injury being one of them. And it definitely can teach you that you are so much stronger. And sometimes those things that happen that are so in the moment, like so terrible, and you're wondering why, it does create this stronger person on the other side. And knowing like if you can go through some of those toughest times, you're able to do so much more than you think you can when other things pop up. So I love it. Awesome. Anyone else? Okay. Lesson 4, inspiration fuels belief. So mindset was something that Grant talked quite a bit about, and how it has shifted over the years in his career. He talked about how he'd love to go back to the Olympics in 3 years, but it is getting harder. He recognizes how much different the sport is even just over the last year, and how age and technology is part of everyone getting faster, right? He's getting older, younger kids are coming up into the sport. I think he called them younger kids. And like technology is just like blowing up everyone's like training, right? I know, I get it. I'm like, if I could just be 30 right now, like, and run a marathon, I would just love to see what that shakes out to. What is really cool as a sidebar is New York City gave age graded course times. So I know someone from Boulder who was trying to run, I think 250. She ended up running like a 259. But she's in her 50s, and they like age graded her race. And she's like, oh, if I would have been like, I don't know, like in my 30s or in my prime, or I don't even know how they gauge any of this. She would have ran like a 244, which is kind of cool. I don't know. I think that's cool. But how much of it is a privilege? Like he's like, it's just so cool to be able to be part of not only seeing people get so fast, which I agree, it's super inspiring, but to ride the momentum of others and use their momentum to help you, especially on those days when maybe you're not motivated to get out to run. Maybe you're not wanting to do that workout. Maybe you don't want to run that long run, but seeing someone else being successful is inspiring, and it can change your mindset. Belief can go a really long way. And when you're part of something like in running or with a running team or community, it helps you feel like you have a bigger sense of yourself. There's something bigger than just you and your individual goals. And I think that's so true. It's like specifically not just for the entire Elevate team. So we have in-person and virtual athletes who are coached in a variety of different ways, between custom training plans, group training in person, and then one-on-one virtual athletes who are all over the country. And we have 2 other coaches on the team. We are still one family. We are one community, and we can whittle that down. And with the in-person team in Denver and Boulder, they get to cheer each other on every single Wednesday, and they get to celebrate when we have races coming up, and celebrate those athletes, not just in person, but on WhatsApp. And be able to track them. And one of the things that's so fun is that there's always like a lot of convo going on in WhatsApp on race mornings. And it's really fun, I think, for the athlete who's running the race to come back into WhatsApp and read all the messages that people are talking about. It's like they're like, talking about like the play-by-play of this runner, and it's so much fun, and it can be a really, really cool to be part of something like that. So Grant signs off on faster runners, knowing he's not going to be at the top of his game forever, and hoping that he can just get into another Olympics and place is really his, I think, end goal with the middle distance. But that being part of something bigger is such a cool place to be, because you can not only motivate others, but inspire others and be inspired by others. So he does train basically alone in Utah, but that's just because they haven't been able to find someone that can train with him. But he is part of a bigger running community in Utah. So he will run. I asked him about running his long runs with Connor and Clayton, because I've seen that on Clayton's YouTube video. And he's like, well, we live about an hour apart. And he said, typically my long run is on Sunday. He said, because they're Mormon, their long run is on Saturday, and then they take Sunday off. So he said any time that he can shift his long run to Saturday, he will then drive an hour and run with them, because he just has so much fun. And it's not just the three of them. It's like a bigger group that's kind of open, not just to Ed's training team, but I think to anyone that can hang in that group. So it's probably Ed's team, but that is just a really great place to be. And that community is such an important aspect. Lesson number 5, the halfway reset. I think this was one of the best things that that Grant mentioned. And Brian's son is a very talented runner. He just ran Indy, I guess on Saturday. Brian says, my stepson used to race with Grant's training partner in college. That's awesome. Yeah, like so cool. And Grant's only gotten faster, and Grant's changed coaches. And the last I heard is that training in Utah, he just doesn't have anyone to run with on the track. And that's okay, because it's clearly working for him. And he's getting his community elsewhere. So the halfway reset. This is in a workout. This is in a long run. I would say this is in a race, maybe a marathon. Practice patience and try not to judge the interval, the workout, the race, the long run you're in until the halfway point. And he said before that, it's like nothing. You don't even care that, like, let's say you're running a workout and the reps are really hard. They're just hard. You cannot make any sort of assumption about how this is going to go until the halfway point. And then he said you just snowball your way to the finish. So you just like keep going, you psych yourself up, you get through it, and you make it happen. One of the things that I talk about a lot is being curious in workouts and really not judging how things feel in the beginning, because typically if things aren't feeling good, they will feel good. But sometimes we just need more of a warm up for it to feel good. So he said to dial up or dial down the intensity at the halfway mark. So let's say at the halfway mark, things still aren't feeling good. You have 6 by a K, you're 3 reps in, it's not feeling good. Dial down the intensity and then snowball your way to the finish. Or, hey, you feel good. Those first 3 reps, focused, dialed, you ran what you wanted to run. Maybe you lean into the momentum aspect and you run a little bit faster in those last 3 reps because you're feeling really good. You're feeling really strong. You're recovering in the amount of time listed. That's always a big indicator that you can go a little bit faster if you want to, is if you can recover and feel really good going into your next rep. I had one of my best K workouts last summer, and I remember the recovery was like 90 seconds and they were fast. I was running 5:45 pace, I think. So basically mile pace. And I was like ready to go. And I was in the middle to front pack of the girls at the time who were there. And like, I remember Nell saying, like, what are you doing? Like, I can't even believe you're running this workout right now as strong as you are. And like, there you are, you're just in the front and you're recovering and all the things. So those are days you want to lean into. Those are the days that you can dial up the intensity just a little bit and snowball your way to the finish. And hey, we've had plenty of workouts where we're like, stress is maybe high, sleep is low. I am going to dial down the last half of this workout and be okay with it, because at the end of the day, I'm still making a training deposit. Anything showing up, getting it done is making a deposit. I loved that lesson. It's such a great way to reframe harder efforts, I think. So a few fun facts. Will, who's on this call, I asked we were chatting on WhatsApp before we met up with Grant about like, I was asking the team to like come prepared to ask questions because I really wanted to make the most of our time with Grant. And Will had casually just dropped like, well, I'm going to ask him if he's a Taylor or Sabrina fan. And I was like, oh dear God, I really hope we have other questions to ask. Like one of like the best runners in middle distance right now. Turns out we did. We had a full 30 minutes of great convo, but when there was like a pause in the group, I asked Will to ask Grant his question. So Grant said he's a Sabrina fan through and through. And then as it's coming out of his mouth, you could see his reaction of like, this is clearly a Swiftie group. This is clearly Team Swiftie, or not even Team Swiftie, but just more of we lean into Taylor, but we love them both. They're both so great. And then I really wanted the team to run Grant's favorite workout that night. But a few weeks before this, we got kicked off the track. So we've been running in a park and it wasn't as conducive to run Ks, but his favorite workout, if you're wondering, is 10 by 1K. And I have to say, this is going to be that's a fast K workout. I think at Worlds, he ran 12:90 for the 5K, which is like 4:08 pace. So what do you think he's running those Ks in? Pretty fast. Okay, I'm going to open this up for Q&A. If you have any questions, comments, anything you want to ask, add, etc. There's so much that we can learn from elites all the time. I love studying them and seeing what they're up to.
I guess I could add a little context since I have an elite runner that lives in my house.
Yeah, share about your son, please.
So just some context. My stepson ran for CSU for 6 years with COVID. Won the Mountain West Conference Championship one year, came in third the following year. I think his PR in the 10K was 28:38. So
yeah,
pretty fast. Ran Indianapolis half last year, finished 10th, did not have a great weekend this past weekend.
Yeah.
Bathroom issues and other cramping. And, I think the biggest takeaway, just watching his evolution from a high school runner or middle school to high school to college to now being professional and running is we all go through a journey. We all have our ups and downs. We all struggle. We all have good days, bad days, and we always have something that we're struggling with. So all our struggles, whether elite or sub-elite or recreational, is all the same.
Yeah, it's so true, because at the end of the day, we're human, right? That's like who we are. And it doesn't matter what pace we run, that we still deal with all of life happenings and the ebbs and flows of it, the stressors. It does normalize, I think, maybe these runners that we do put on a pedestal, that they still have days where like, they're in the porta potty on race day. And it's like, this is not at all what I trained for. Yep. And it can happen. What's next for your son, Brian?
He is running his first marathon next month.
Oh,
in the marathon project.
Cool. That's so fun. Oh my
He's-
gosh.
He's
Yes.
part of the elite field, so he'll be running on Sunday.
Cool. Oh my gosh, that's going to be so great. I think it's like December 20th, 19th, something
It's
like
the
that.
21st.
21st. Cool.
Yep. So
Yeah.
it's the 20th and 21st. So yeah, he's excited and nervous and all that wonderful stuff.
Yeah.
But I think we're estimating he'll finish probably between a 212, 215.
That's great. Yeah, it's such a cool situation because it's either a looped course or it's flat as can be, and you get bottle service, and they really set it up well for you to do your best. And I think I checked after Chicago. There were like bibs open for non-elite runners. The bib was $500, which was
Yep.
wild. My coach like now wanted me to run something like pretty quickly after Chicago to kind of like run something faster. But I said no, but I did look into that. I was like, oh yeah, like that would be so cool. It looks like they're going to have it set up so well. It's going to be organized incredibly. Your son's working with a great coach, Evan Schwartz, who's a Boulder coach, and he can do some pretty incredible things with runners. So it'll be exciting to track him.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Anyone else? Anything else you want to share? No, we had Ronald join the call, which is so nice, Ronald. Yeah. Cool. Okay. Well, this is the November call. Our December team call is going to be a little bit different. If you saw from the email, we are going to create in December. So we are going to create an inspiration board about our running for 2026. So that could be, a digital board. You could bring a whiteboard to the session. We're going to be meeting right over Google Meet for about 90 minutes or so. I'm going to have music playing. We can share things. And I think it's just going to be a lot of fun. And I think it goes back to like the community aspect of we can always inspire each other. So I think it'll be a really cool session for us to all come together and see what goals we personally have for 2026, how we want to show up, our inspiration board for the year, and then what other people are doing. And we might maybe pull from them too, because that's what's so cool about having a team and being part of this community. So I hope to see you there. It's on a Sunday, which is, I think, going to be pretty cool. And the timing should work in all time zones. It's in the afternoon. I think it's at 2:00 Mountain Time. So if you have any questions about that, feel free to ask for sure. But it's going to be fun. Bring a holiday beverage, wear a holiday sweater. Just let's have fun. Thanks, everyone. I'll see you soon.